Later in the debate, Trump maybe giving us a preview of his defense should he face trial for the events of January 6th and claims of election interference. Let's hear his case.
And I want to talk about the peaceful transfer of power, which, of course, we all know is a cornerstone of our democracy, and the role of a president in a moment of crisis. Mr. President, on January 6th, you told your supporters to march to the Capitol. You said you would be right there with them. The country and the world saw what played out at the Capitol that day, the officers coming under attack. Is there anything you regret about what you did on that day?
Peacefully and patriotically, I said during my speech. But we didn't do this group of people that have been treated so badly. I ask, what about all the people that are pouring into our country and killing people that she allowed to pour in? When are those people going to be prosecuted? When are the people that burned down Minneapolis going to be prosecuted? Or in Seattle, they went into Seattle, they took over a big percentage of the city of Seattle. When are those people going to be prosecuted?
Is there anything you regret about what you did on that day? Yes or no?
I had nothing to do with that other than they asked me to make a speech. I showed up for a speech. I said, I think it's going to be big. I went to Nancy Pelosi and the mayor of Washington, D.C. I said, I'd like to give you 10,000 National Guard or soldiers. They rejected me. Nancy Pelosi rejected me. It was just 2 weeks ago. Her daughter has a tape of her saying she is fully responsible for what happened. They want to get rid of that tape. It would have never happened if Nancy Pelosi and the mayor of Washington did their jobs.
Mr. President, for 3.5 years after you lost the 2020 election, you repeatedly falsely claimed that you won, many times saying you won in a landslide.
Look, there's so much proof. All you have to do is look at it. And they should have sent it back to the legislatures for approval. I got almost 75 million votes, the most votes any sitting president has ever gotten. I was told if I got 63, which was what I got in 2016, you can't be beaten. Our elections are bad. And a lot of these illegal immigrants coming in, they're trying to get them to vote. They can't even speak English. They don't even know what country they're in practically. And these people are trying to get them to vote. And that's why they're allowing them to come into our country.
And we should just point out here as clarification, and you know this, you and your allies, 60 cases in front of many judges, many of them Republican.
No judge looked at it.
And said
they said we didn't have standing. That's the other thing. They said we didn't have standing, a technicality. Can you imagine a system where a person in an election doesn't have standing? The president of the United States doesn't have standing. We have so many facts and statistics.
Donald Trump was fired by 81 million people. So let's be clear about that. And clearly he is having a very difficult time processing that.
Trump saying on election interference, he's got facts, he's got evidence, he's got stats, doesn't cite one. Like, why not? Why not take this time to cite those facts? I don't know. What did you think when you were watching this exchange, Nirati?
I think he's like, if people told me that if I got more than 63 million votes, I would have won. I think he's very salty about it. I think he's like, it seems like he's a bit of a sore loser, I feel like. He's just boasting the number of votes he got. And I think he still has yet to process the fact that he wasn't president, that he lost. And then I think at some point he said, like, I lost by a whisker, and then he says I was being sarcastic.
And then the moderators interject. I think this was another moment of not necessary interjection. I think it was a little petty on David Muir's part, going, well, I didn't get the sarcasm.
I think saying, so you admit that you lost, I feel like that's something Harris should have said. I don't see that. Like, I don't think that's what the moderators had to say. I think that's almost like trying to prove a point there, which is not what they're supposed to be doing. But yeah, I do think he doesn't cite facts. He says, yeah, like, it was rigged. We didn't, like, I won, but I think he's saying that with the hopes that people who want to believe it will, but I don't think he's convincing anyone there. I don't think anyone who's accepted the fact that he lost, I don't think he would have convinced them that he won.
Yeah, and what is this? My question was, who cares if you got 63 million votes? when someone gets 66 million votes. So if you're saying that logic should win you the election, well, you won with 63, Clinton got 66.
Yeah.
It's like, it doesn't matter. There isn't a magic number when it comes to electing our presidents. And it's not even a fact that you have to get more votes. Like, there's an electoral college system in place here that Trump benefits from. So yeah, it was a little confusing. And I've seen him repeat that line multiple times. And it's like, I don't think that's your strongest case, dude. And just the fact that he's not citing these things, like, which means I have to go and look into these, these facts, these statistics. I looked at them, and you got dead people voting in Michigan. You got ballot harvesting in Nevada. You got discrepancies in Pennsylvania, flip votes in Arizona, felons and kids voting in Georgia. I mean, there's so many. But they've all been debunked as far as have seen. I haven't seen anyone that hasn't been debunked. And that's another question I have for the audience. Give me those instances. I want to see them. If it's there, I want to see it. I think David Muir interjecting, saying that 60 cases rejected was not a bad instance of fact checking, especially because Trump kind of tries to twist it. Because he's like, no judge looked at it. I didn't have standing. Well, if you're talking about you didn't have standing, that was the Supreme Court. That was the appeal you made to the Supreme Court that decided you didn't have standing, and they didn't look at it. But all the other courts, they rejected it because of lack of evidence. So I think David Muir just saying, hey, those cases were rejected isn't like terrible, but I think he pushes it a little too far.
I think he kind of had fun with it. I think he was... Yeah, I also, Trump also says, yeah, like, imagine the president of the United States, like, doesn't have standing. Like, I feel like that kind of sounds a little egotistical. I think that sounds like he thinks he should win because he's the president, or like, it's like, oh, but I'm the president, I should get my way. But I feel like everyone knows that he understands. Like, I think he understands how things work. I think he's just trying to delude himself and his supporters into thinking that
he won.
Yeah.
Or that's the other thing that I was thinking about is because he's in a weird position right now where if you say to Trump, you say, that's not true. You lost. He can't agree with you because he's facing trials. If he were to agree with you, well, they're donezo. If he knew that he won, there you go, you convict him. So he just can't say that. He's backed himself into a corner where it's just not even an option for him. That being said, he did bring up an interesting, and maybe I need to look at this a little more, but the Alexandria Pelosi footage. Have you heard about this footage?
No.
So Alexandria Pelosi, Nancy Pelosi's daughter, followed Nancy around during the insurrection. Or the protest, I don't know what you want to call it, and recorded her for an HBO documentary. And in that documentary, we've seen clips, unaired clips, where Pelosi's like, why wasn't there a National Guard? I take responsibility. Now, these are small clips. These are like 40-second clips. I wish I could see more extended clips of these, to see more context, more information. To me, when I see it, my first impression is this is just a leader doing what leaders do. They take responsibility for things, like sometimes when your team fails, if you're a leader, you take responsibility, even though it's not your fault. If you're the lead, you gotta share. You just go, I share responsibility. I should have had the foresight, Now, when he's saying that he wanted that National Guard there, I don't know how this works, and I really should have looked more into it. Can he call a National Guard? He is the president. I was under the impression that the president could call the National Guard in at any time he wanted. I didn't think that was the Speaker of the House's responsibility. Because when I think of National Guard being called in, I think of Lyndon Johnson calling in the National Guard for race riots in the South, but. So I don't know. Like, does the footage exonerate Trump? Does it say that the blame should be spread? Is there some sort of political thing happening in regards to January 6th? I don't know. He says enough that makes me question. So I don't know. What do you think about that?
I think it was smart of him to bring up that footage. I think he definitely tried to, like, I can't even, like, sometimes, like, I say, yeah, like, he knows that he was wrong or something like that. I can't tell if he knows he was wrong, but I think he definitely wants other people, he's trying to take the blame off of himself. I don't think he believes he was wrong. I don't think he thinks he made a mistake, and wants to cover it. I think, I also want to talk about how he said that in his speech. He said peacefully and patriotically, I think. I'm not sure if I'm quoting that right, but I think that's where he knew he was wrong, because I think he knows his fan base well enough to know that they would have taken that and ran with it. Like, I think he should have known or knew that they weren't going to do it peacefully and patriotically. I think he should have realized his power as a leader, and I think he's bringing up the fact that he couldn't call the National Guard, or he tried to, and then those documentary clips, I think he's bringing that up to obviously deflect, but...
The peacefully and patriotically thing, you could also say, like, oh, he said that to save his ass. Like, there was part of him that's like, I'm pretty sure some of these people are going to break a law. So I have to say peacefully and patriotically, or else to cover my own butt.
I definitely,
it's like it's one of those things where now we're in a gray area. You know, they've done enough to legally cover themselves potentially, because lawyers, you know, they will look for any sort of like little thing that they can exploit. So you got to do these little things to cover your butt. He mentioned immigration a lot, and I've been noticing this is like people, the theory. And it's very similar to the Great Replacement theory. The theory is that Democrats are allowing people, immigrants, to cross illegally into America to become non-citizens so they can vote for Democrats. Before I even get into my thoughts on this, what have you heard about this? What are your thoughts about this?
I'm not too familiar with it, so I think I'm going to let you talk about it.
I have some. I mean, I have my my opinions on this because, like I said, if you're watching, if you're listening, please leave a comment. Tell me where I'm wrong here. Like, I don't mind being proven wrong. My impression is that non-citizens are not allowed to vote in state and federal elections, and that in municipalities, it is rare. There are municipalities where non-citizens can vote, but they are rare. And those municipalities vote on whether or not non-citizens can vote in their elections. And I know, like, the Republicans, they tried to pass a bill called the SAVE Act, requiring proof of citizenship if someone wants to vote. And I'm sitting here going, okay, fair enough, but isn't that like an example of federal overreach in the sense that Republicans like complain about, like, you're creating a federal solution to a rare municipal problem? You know, like, local cities are already deciding this on their own, and now you're trying to circumvent that and create a blanket federal law. And then you look at like abortion, where it's like, in that instance, they're like, we want to give that to the people as much as possible. We want to decentralize that as much as possible. Leave it up to the states, leave it up to the local, people. So I'm seeing a little bit of hypocrisy in those two positions. And like I said, could be wrong. Tell me where I'm wrong.